The footage is still fresh. Caitlin Clark walking off the court, head held high after getting ejected from a game for what can only be described as existing the lead that refuses protected stars, the whistles, the crowd confusion, the stunned commentators. It's all there, and then chaos, pure unfiltered viral chaos, because within minutes, teammates Sophie Cunningham and Lexie lit the match. They didn't stay quiet. They fall back on PR speak or vague "we support her" statements. No, they exploded loud, clear, and absolutely unapologetic. This wasn't just about one call. This is about all of it. The week's one called fouls. The bat. If you're here for the real story and not to filter version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. The clear targeting of Caitlin Clark by players who seem more interested in teaching or a lesson and playing the game. And now it's a full-blown WNBA crisis. Let's not sugarcoat it. Caitlin Clark is a reason millions of people are watching women's basketball right now. Her impact has been seismic. Ticket sales through the roof. National broadcasts seen their best ratings ever. Jerseys flying off the shelves. She brought everybody from who paid to curious for timers to the WNBA, and yet somehow the league has managed to treat her like a problem to contain rather than a force to support. Now, after rejection, the question is no longer can WNBA rise with Caitlin Clark. It's gonna WNB. A survivor. She walks because the players know. Oh, the stakes. The fans definitely know, and anger is mounting. Sophie Cunningham's response was instant. No filters, no hesitation. After the game, she stormed to the tunnel, reportedly yelling at league staff, Connie officiating a disgrace, and demanding answers about the targeting. Clark continues to ace. She later posted a short video to her social account, visibly furious, called trash, and saying this is about Caitlin just being a star. It's about respecting the game. She's a player like the rest of us. Protect your players or lose your league. Lexie back her up fast. Within the hour, she posted a lengthy message dragging the WNBA for fostering which she called a culture of silence and retaliation. She accused the league of ignoring months of escalating hostility against Clark and College Jackson, a symbol of leadership failure at every level. It wasn't just a rat, it was a declaration. Suddenly, the game was in the story. Dejection was the league's leadership was silent, but everyone else was screaming. Commentators, analysts, fans, former players, every single voice had the same question: what we doing here? Because of the WNBA truly want to be taken seriously, it can keep treating its best players like they're disposable. Caitlin Clark isn't just a talented rookie, she's a heartbeat of the league momentum, and yet for weeks, she's been getting elbowed, shoved, cheap shot, and now ejected for reacting to the pressure she's been under since game one. Make it make sense. It's not just that she was tossed, is why she was tossed. A moment of visible frustration, a little verbal pushback, and boom, whistle, ejection. Meanwhile, players throwing elbows at her. No calls, players baiting her with hard fouls. Silence. The inconsistency isn't as bad. It is dangerous, and that's where Cunningham and Hull's anger comes from, because they see what fans and now see more clearly than ever. A lead try control Caitlin Clark rather than support her, and in doing so they're creating an environment where speaking out is punished, where aggression's ignored, and where talent is enough. Compliance of the currency. But here's the kicker: Clark has complained, she's played hard, she's shown up, she's taken hits literally and figuratively, and she's remained professional. Rejection wasn't about a meltdown, it was about accumulation, the build-up, the emotional toll. Be told day after day, take it, don't fight back, don't speak up. And when she finally did, when she dared local revenue and pushed back as a little, they made an example of her. So now the league has a problem, because when players like Cunningham and Hull speak out, it's not just frustration, it's a warning. They're saying, we're not gonna let you bury her, we're not gonna at the brightest light in this league. Be damned, because it's inconvenient to deal with the attention she brings. And make no mistake, Clark's attention is complicated for the league. She's a white Midwestern college basketball built phenomenon dropped into a league where legacy players have fought tooth and nail for decades without a fraction of the spotlight. There's tension, there's history, there's nuance, but none of that justifies what she's endured on the court. There's a difference between hazing and harassment, between competitiveness and cruelty, between initiation and isolation, and what Cunningham and Howe are really saying is, we've crossed a line. You know things are bad when fans are openly posting messages begging Caitlin Clark to leave WNBA. Altogether, socials are flooded with clips, rejection, emotional breakdowns from young girls watching her. "I don't get treated like an outsider," and long periods of and saying she deserved better. Many have even suggested she explore opportunities overseas or look toward media and endorsement deals, anything that doesn't involve being targeted for simply being whose he is. That's how deep does his cut. And here's what's truly terrifying: they don't have a backup plan. There's no next Clark waiting in the wings, no second superstar guaranteed to replicate her cultural crossover appeal. If she leaves, or she simply loses interest, is not just a law, a talent, it's a lot of momentum, of viewership, of credibility. So what now? Well, now we wait. We wait to see if the WNBA issues a statement. We wait to see if they acknowledge growing unrest, if they back their officials or take responsibility. We wait to see they find Sophie and Lexie. We're speaking out, which, if they do, will only further ignite the fire. And most importantly, we wait to see how Caitlin Clark responds, because that response, it could reshape the future of the league. If Clark decide to stay quiet, take the high road, and continue playing to the chaos, the lead me, I think they survive the moment. But as she pushes back, really pushes back, publicly or privately, it could be the start of a full-blown reckoning. The power dynamic is shifting, and for once the players might be in the driver's seat. Because this isn't about one bad call anymore, it's about a league as is want to grow. Oh, but punish is the very stars making that growth possible. It's about teammates refusing to stay silent while their friend is thrown under the bus. It's about fans who showed up to support something new, something exciting, and are now wondering if they made a mistake. And the WNBA doesn't act fast. They may lose more than just Clark. They may lose the trust they spent years trying to build. So here we are, a potential turning point in women's basketball. Moment I could either redefine league or unravel it. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie How didn't plan to become revolutionaries, but the league left them no choice, and the clock is ticking. Caitlin Clark hasn't said much publicly since the Jackson, but she doesn't need to. Her silence speaks volumes. Her teammates have already said when she likely wishes he could. Enough is enough, because at this point it's not just about how she plays, it's about how she's treated, and everyone's watching. Clark came into the WNBA and not just as a rookie, but as a movement. She didn't walk in the door, she kicked off its hinges. She brought new kind of attention to women's basketball, not just a niche loyal fan base, but the mainstream audience. The league as chief for years, corporate sponsors, national media, first-time viewers, all drawn by your skill, her style, her presence. She made the league louder, but with that volume came scrutiny, and now instead of being embraced, she's being picked apart, both by opposing players on the court and by the system that was opposed. Elevator, let's talk about the system. Because this isn't just about Caitlin Clark's ejection. This is about the WNBA. A long-standing struggle with identity for years has been stuck in a tension between preserving tradition and welcoming evolution, between honoring legacy and making space for new blood. And Clark, she's a full-on disruption, and disruptive force is by their nature unsettled the status quo. Her rise as exposed bitter undercurrent and league resentment from some veterans who feel like they've been overlooked for years, discomfort from league leadership afraid of calling a star, and growing frustration from fans who see Clark getting targeted game after game with little to no accountability. Cunningham and How have seen up close, and when he spoke out, they didn't just do it to defend a teammate, they did it to defend the game itself. Their message was clear: this is and how we grow the league. You don't build a sport by tearing down the people who carry it for. Edward, you don't attract new fans by punishing the players that came to see you. Protect them, you back them. But right now the WNBA is failing to protect the very people making it relevant, is why so many fans are furious. They didn't just show up for Caitlin Clark, they showed up for the future, for the Verge. The basketball that is unapologetically fast, loud, and full of fire. But instead, they're watching a few to get dragged to technicals, hard fouls, cold shoulders, and now an ejection. They're watching league fumble its biggest opportunity in years. It's not just heartbreaking, it's infuriating, and you can feel the energy online and in new arenas. The crowd frustration isn't just about the officials, it's about the pattern. One call might be forgivable to might be questionable, but a season full of bruises, no calls, and silence, that's a statement that's saying we don't care how much you've done for us. We'll take your success, but we won't offend your place. And if Clark walked away, whether that means overseas play, stepping back for endorsements, or even shift in the media, that won't be honor, that are beyond them, on the leadership, on the referees, on every person who stood by while she was taken down. Piece by piece, what Cunningham and Howe are doing now is trying to stop that outcome before it happens. They're throwing up the alarm signals that the league itself should have sounded weeks ago. They're saying if we don't change now, we might lose her, not just Caitlin Clark the player, but Caitlin Clark, the moment, the movement, the window of cultural relevance that doesn't open often in women's sports. Because here's the hard truth. The WNBA needs more than she needs him. Clark doesn't just bring talent, she brings audience, she brings sponsors, she brings attention that can be bought. And if the league squanders it by continuing to let it be the punching bag of the season, the consequences will ripple far beyond one player's career. Other rising stars would take note. Fans who just arrival tune out. Brands I finally saw value in investing will back away. And the story will no longer be Caitlin Clark changed the WNBA, it'll be the WNBA couldn't handle Caitlin Clark that has a reputation they're toying with. That's why Cunningham and Hull's words matter so much. They're not just defending a teammate, they're defending a vision, the lead that actually survived. And there's another layer to this solidarity, because in this league, speaking out doesn't come easy. The WNBA small is tight-knit, reputation travels fast. Criticize league or the refs, and you might find yourself in the wrong side of power structure that doesn't take kindly to dissent, which makes Sophie and Lexie's advocacy all the more significant. They're risking fines, they're risking backlash, they're risking being laid old as problematic or emotional or whatever coded term is popular this week, and they do it anyway, because when a star like Clark is targeted and no one says anything, the silence becomes complicity. It's not enough to cheer for her from the sidelines, is not enough to post vague support. What Howe and Cunningham are doing is naming the problem loudly, and in a league is often demanded quiet compliance. That's revolutionary, whether or not the WNBA hears them is another story, because so far there's been no formal acknowledgement of the officiating problems, no public review of ejection, no mean and for gesture to say we hear you were working on it, just more silence. And it's silence, it's louder than anything else right now. It echoes every time a ref let a hard foul go, every time a player takes a jab at Clark on social media without consequence, every time a fan sees her favorite player thrown out for standing up for herself. It says we're not ready to change. But the problem is change is already happening. It's happening in real time. Do viral videos, press clips, tic-tacs, and threads through Sophie Cunningham, and post-game interviews through Lexie, Howe on her story through every fan who records a moment and calls out the inconsistency. The WNBA doesn't control the narrative anymore, not completely now like it used to, and maybe that's a good thing, because if this league wants to grow, really grow, it needs to evolve past idea that criticism of betrayal, that star should be great. For that toughness means staying silent, and that players like Caitlin Clark are too much when they're exactly what the league asked for. They wanted stars, she gave them one. They wanted attention, she brought millions. They wanted a future, she became it. And now they have a choice: for check their future or lose it. Caitlin Clark won't say it outright. She doesn't have to. Her game says it all, her presence says it all. And the people around her, they're saying the rest. Sophie Cunningham Lexie, how the fans, the noise, the outrage, they're not just acting to one moment. They're fighting for something bigger, a version of women's basketball where talent is valued, not penalized, where stars are supported, not sidelined, where players are heard, not hushed. The WNBA is at a crossroads. One path leads evolution, the other leads to a azure. Caitlin Clark's ejection wasn't just the call, it was a wake-up. Now the league has to decide if it's actually listening. The thing about moments like this, these boiling points that seem to have rubbed out of nowhere, is they don't actually come out of nowhere. They build slowly, quietly, over time, behind the scenes, in locker rooms, in film sessions, and bruises. I don't show up on stat sheets, in exhausts expressions of players who keep getting us to just focus on a game, even when the game is being taken away from him. One foul, one silence, one ejection at a time. Caitlin Clergy Jackson wasn't just a mistake, it was a man for station, a very public unraveling of everything of and going wrong with the way the WNBA has handled her presence, her fame, her impact, her style play, her disruption of the pecking order. And now the entire ecosystem surrounding her is responding. You can't punish most watched player in your lead for being visible and expect the public not to notice. You can't allow the constant narrative of she's too cocky, or she needs be humbled, or should earn her stripes to fester, and an act surprise when that narrative turns into bad blood on the court. The WNBA let this pressure build, it let the targeting become normalized, it let the river Sentiment linger now, it's all collapsing in real time. And the thing is, Caitlin Clark has never once claimed to be above the league. She hasn't thrown tantrums. She hasn't demanded special treatment. In fact, she's been silent in ways that many other stars wouldn't be. She's taken hits. She's tried to lead by example. She's played through pain to scrutiny to a media circus. She's done everything right. And still it was enough. What does that tell every other young star watching? What does that say to the next rookie who shows up with a big name, a sharp game, and a ton of pressure? That the say. Second, you step outside established mold, you become a target that any sign of confidence will be spun his arrogance, and any reaction to mistreatment will be refrained his attitude. That's the real danger here. Not just for Caitlin Clark, but for the culture, the league itself. Because when the biggest star can't even exist without being dragged, ejected, intersected, what hope does anyone else have? That's what Sophie Cunningham and Lexie, how we're reacting to. Yes, they were furious about ejection, but what they were really furious about was the mess. Age sense that protecting your teammate could cost you your reputation, that backing someone up, someone who's visibly been mishandled, might put a target on your back, to that being loud is riskier than being silent. Even when silence has proven useless, their anger wasn't performative, it was protective, urging real, and the league would be foolish not to take it seriously. This isn't a one-player issue, it's not even a one-team issue, this is systemic. This is cultural. This is what happens when a lead desperately wants to grow, but doesn't yet know how to handle the reality of actually growing. Yoga to have it both ways. You don't get the plastic Caitlin Clark's face on billboards and social media campaigns, then sit on your hands when she's being physically and verbally targeted. You don't get to profit off her name while staying silent as she's being treated like an invader. And make no mistake, that's how it feels. Like she's not being embraced as part of WNBA family, been instead treated like an outsider, a threat, not just by opponents, but by the very system meant to support her. Which brings us to this moment. A star crossroads, her teammates taking heat, the league under a microscope, and fan growing louder by the hour. The tension is unsustainable. Something has to give. The league as a few options. It could continue to double down on silence, hope the news cycle moves on, that Clark says nothing publicly, that Cunningham and how cool off, and that everyone eventually returned the business as usual. That's the most comfortable path, but also the most dangerous, because things won't go back to normal. This incident has already changed the way people view the league. The fans who came because of Clark, they're watching closely. Many are new to the WNBA, enthusiastic but unfamiliar. They don't have a decade of loyalty to cushion this moment. They showed up for her, and if they feel like she's being disrespected, they won't stick around. And it's not just the fans. Sponsors are watching, the broadcasters, media outlets, other as its future rookies. Everyone is now using this moment as a measuring stick for how the WNBA handles his business. When things get messy, do they protect their players? Do they listen to criticism? Do they evolve? Or do they retreat into the always of take the hit, smile for the camera, say nothing? Controversial. Caitlin Clark future in the WNBA hinges on what happens next. But so does the league's, because here's what the league still doesn't seem to fully understand. She has options. If Clark decided tomorrow that she wanted play overseas, she'd be offered a max contract, and then some. If you walk into a media studio, she could sign a multi-million-dollar deal to talk basketball instead of play it. If she wanted to pivot into branding full-time, she accompanies lining up. She doesn't need the WNBA. She chose it, and the league has done very little to show her they understand the value of that choice. So here's where we are. A generational town is being disrespected. Her teammates are risking their own reputations to speak the truth, and the league's it's paralyzed, either too afraid or too stubborn. Of course, correct. And maybe this is the moment it all boils over. Maybe this is the moment players stop waiting for the lead to protect them and start protecting each other. Either maybe this is where the fan base hardens, becomes louder, more demanding, less forgiving. Maybe this is where Clark herself draws the line and says no more. Or maybe, hopefully, this is the moment a league wakes up, because if it doesn't, the WNBA won't just lose Caitlin Clark.